Welcome to the Hunter's Advantage podcast, where a group of budget-minded hunters scour the woods for whitetail bucks and whatever other big game is in season. Tune in each week to hear the hilarious public and private land hunting stories and mistake-filled lessons learned. We believe that every hunt brings us closer to God and that we exist to share the good news. And now, your hosts, Christian Babcock and Jake Gaylord.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If it sounds a little different, there might be a little road noise. We're actually headed somewhere. Where are we headed to?
Headed to New Mexico.
Ooh.
It feels like I spent 2 days at home, and then, it's because I did.
Why did you spend 2 days at home?
Because we did a beautiful Nebraska trip, and then, September didn't used to be a time where we would go launch off, but after going to Kansas a couple years ago, we've kicked off and caught the September bug. So we are headed to New Mexico for elk hunting.
I have a weird statement, and you can either agree or disagree.
Okay.
As for the people listening, is September a better time to hunt than October?
I think so.
What's your thoughts on that?
In terms of like whitetail?
In terms of just hunting in general. We'll do whitetail since it's basically whitetail. Because obviously elk, duh.
Yeah.
But whitetail.
I would argue that I enjoy early September more than I do early October.
Mm-hmm.
I would say late October, no, for sure not. But the early season pattern is really fun because they're kind of doing the summer thing. You know, they're still moving around before daylight.
You can hunt beans
dark.
Longer.
Yeah, I do enjoy September. I have limited experience, maybe two or three seasons of hunting in September. But From what we've done, we've kind of always been in the chips in September.
Seems like it, hadn't it?
Yeah. Do you like September?
I would agree with your statement. Yeah. That's kind of why I brought it up because I was like,
because I love it.
I wonder if I'm high or not. I don't know. But So, do we want to dive into what we've been doing or the recap?
Yeah. I think this is going to be a little bit of a hybrid truck cast for us. I think we can talk about Nebraska. So we just got back for Nebraska. You guys probably saw the antelope episode that me and Gabe did on the way to mule deer camp. So we'll talk about mule deer camp / turn more into a whitetail camp, and then we'll talk a little bit of our upcoming trip that we're headed to in New Mexico. But I think first we recap the old Nebraska trip because we had if people are looking only at our Instagram, they're like, Jake shot at a velvet buck. What happened? That's probably all they got to see: bows and grass and a velvet buck. So. You're the one that did the majority of the deer scouting. So what?
The majority of it?
Yeah, all of it.
All of it? What are you talking about?
When did you guys head up to Nebraska, and what were you guys doing?
So we headed up Thursday. So I don't know what day that is for y'all listening, but we headed up on a Thursday.
Last Thursday.
Yeah, the last Thursday of August. That's a very good reference right there. And we got there maybe 1 a.m. So basically, I guess Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And we set up camp, and we slept in that next morning, cooked some breakfast, and we went scouting. And obviously, like midday, it wasn't too good. We were mainly just driving around trying to get a layout of the land. And the evening, we were glassing, and I'm pretty sure we glassed that one spot that piece.
So I can give a little bit of background.
Okay.
For people that have listened in a long time, we see a lot of people have been joining in this last summer, so you do need a little bit of context. But people that listened last year would understand. I went mule deer hunting last year and got to hunt for a day. We moved over to a spot in more central Nebraska and ended up getting on some mule deer. But I got probably the worst case of food poisoning I've ever gotten in my life. And Gabe, camera guy, continued to hunt for a couple days, got into the velvet muleys, but just not on a spot that's got a ton of options for hunting. So What I told Jake and Jesse is when they headed up was, hey, this is a spot that you can kind of scout out one or two times, and then if they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're not. But this was kind of our only original spot that we were going to hunt in Nebraska. That's where you guys headed up. Didn't get there in time the first evening of glass, but what did you guys do the next morning?
Yeah, kind of like I was saying, we slept in. Long story short, we kind of got into the deer. Like the first day, we were mainly just driving around trying to get a layout of the land, like seeing what's what, how the neighbors were planted and all that stuff. Long story short, Nebraska is they're called Nebraska Cornhuskers for a reason.
Holy frick!
corn upon corn.
Upon corn.
Some would say it's amazing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of corn there. So with that, we were on that fringe of like, and I'm pretty sure you warned us on it. It's like that fringe of the mule deer,
whitetail range.
The whitetail, and it was mainly for whitetail, but they didn't have like a whole lot of trees. So you're basically trying to mule deer hunt whitetail, and that's just a bad combination
it's a different
in general.
Style.
So yeah. We set up. We seen some deer, but nothing like to call home about, right? Like we got into the does and dinks, right? And
what was your mix, whitetail to muley, on the does and dinks?
I'd say about 50-50.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, dink wise, doe wise, probably 50-50, but dink wise, mainly more whitetail. I don't even know if we've seen a mule deer dink.
Yeah.
To be honest, Jesse might have when we were splitting up scouting, but yeah. The first few days, I mean, it's kind of uneventful for, big bucks that, probably you viewers wanted to hear about, but sadly we did not get into those. And you guys met us on Saturday evening after your antelope hunts, and we got started. But you did find out something crucial about the Onyx layers.
Yeah.
Whenever you're on your antelope hunt.
Yeah, well, don't do what I say. No, I'm just kidding. There's Nebraska, basically, just to put it bluntly, they have a walk-in program. That's it. That's what we learned.
But we didn't know that.
No,
we didn't know that. So we, I guess, had layers turned on where it was just the two pieces of public, and if we didn't find success there, or thought our time was better spent elsewhere, we were going to go up to, I guess, the Sandhill region of the state.
Yeah.
Right, because as a non-resident, they say you have a statewide deer permit, but
it is in some sense.
It is, but for mule deer specifically, and it's kind of what we were after at first. It's like, yeah, it's statewide, but you only get like 50% of the state to hunt because the rest of it's like the conservation area or whatever.
Yeah, we should probably put that in a context. So Nebraska is kind of one of the last frontiers for states that allow not over-the-counter mule deer hunting. Now, they do limit the permits, so there's like 1,400 permits, but they go on sale first come, first serve, which is over-the-counter. It's just limited over-the-counter. And as a way to kind of protect the mule deer population, if you read on the Nebraska tags and on their big game manual, Nebraska has been having a lot of issues with brainworm, and there was one other disease. So their mule deer, and I think their deer population in general, is way down. And so in order to help conserve the mule deer population from those non-resident hunters, they created what's called the Mule Deer Conservation Area. It's basically the best mule deer hunting habitat in the state is off limits to non-residents that don't draw a special permit. So that northwestern corner and the southwestern corner, or pretty much southwestern, just half down there, is not open for mule deer hunting, which really limits your options in terms of mule deer. But if you see several velvet muleys the year before, that's enough for an idiot, probably like me,
which
and you, to go give it a shot. I'm of the mind of like, if they're there, even in limited quantities, maybe I can find one and shoot them. And to be honest, we did do a little bit of that. But that's the background on Nebraska. It's one of those states that you talk about the corn. What we learned in Kansas and what we've seen is Kansas is almost is very textbook in terms of like corn to beans, and it's very. You're typically not gonna hit a bean year 2 years in a row or corn year 2 years in a row. I know the corn's really hard on the soil from what I've heard. So that's why it kind of threw me off on the public we were hunting, is like there was corn on, and I'm like, there's no way there's gonna be corn again. And you go and the stalks are 8 foot tall. You're
dude,
like, again,
they were huge.
Again, yeah. So we did that. You guys scouted and got into does and dink land, and we found some more access. Split up, and so the morning before or the evening before the opener, we all split up. And did you guys get in any deer? Jesse did, because he was staying at the same old spot.
Yeah, Jesse did, and I think that's what we did. We set. What you said the morning before the opener.
The evening before. This was the last scouting mission.
Yeah. So you guys set at that one new piece of walk-in with the lone oak, and Jesse said at the spot where we've been seeing does and dinks. Jesse said he didn't have the camera on him because I took the camera, but he had the GoPro, and Jesse gets caught watching sometimes, which is fine. We all do, but he didn't try to record it with his phone or whatever. But he said he had a big old mule deer come out on that spot, which the year before you and Gabe found him. So
that would make sense.
It was believable. And me and Jesse sat there, I think, 2 days.
2 mornings probably.
Yeah, 2 mornings and probably an evening for that spot, and we kept seeing the same, basically, for sure does, because there's one mule deer doe and 2 fawns with it, and we seen like the same deer for like 3 sits in a row, but just from different spots, because we were jumping, kind of playing the wind. But like, long story short, we were seeing the same deer from different spots, so therefore, like, we felt like we were covering a lot of that area, obviously. And
speaking of deer,
yeah, there's one on the side of the road.
Got a dead one there. So I think what we should talk about before we get too deep into it is like a lot of people probably haven't been to Nebraska, and I think this is different from a lot of the stuff. Oops, sorry guys, we lost our GoPro. That's what happens when you buy cheap Chinese attachments. Sorry.
Is the camera even good on it or no?
Yeah,
like
it's
angle wise.
Yeah, it's in that super wide view.
Nice.
There we go. So Nebraska is different. You'd think it'd just be very, very similar to Kansas, and in a lot of ways it is. But what did you think of the deep ridges with cedars in them? They're kind of like the pattern that we were trying to take advantage of was a bed to food, right? Primarily, most of the food being on private, in terms of corn and beans, and we were trying to watch the deer coming out of those cedar bottoms and working up onto private and taking advantage of that. The cedars can be pretty overwhelming. It is very monotonous in a lot of ways. What did you think of that? Because there's not like a single. In one of those cedar bottoms, you think like, oh, it's just a cedar bottom. Watch one way in, one way out. There might be 10 different ways in and 10 different ways out.
And well, yes. And the thing about it is that grass wasn't just like, okay, ankle, knee-deep grass. It was like belly button, sometimes nipple tall.
Right.
And so a deer can disappear in that really quickly. So even if you see one, all of a sudden it'll walk, and then just out of the blue you'll see its head, and then it'll just disappear. And it's like, what? Well, there's these little, outside of these deep ravines, there's like these little micro drainages that I guess they slip in, and then obviously they're 2 foot lower now, and so they're just completely out of the ballpark of vision, right? And so that's what we kept running into whenever we seen like a doe or a dink, and that's something we noticed. But I forgot to mention, like, we put a lot of like miles on our. I kept Jesse busy, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because during the morning we were scouting, or we were glassing that one area that had the dinks and does, and then after we found out that walk-in near us that had like the 3 big, I guess, like valleys that had all those drainages and stuff. Yeah. Me and Jesse were trying to, like, during midday, we were walking those, and which we only did it for 1 day, and then we're like, yeah, this is pretty much impossible, because we covered 2 of those drainages in 1 big loop. And our plan was to kind of walk up along these knobs of these ridges, and then down below, like I guess in these little cuts, we were trying to like get up on the shadowed side of them, and then look over and try to like hopefully see something bedded or maybe bust it. And you know how those mule deer are, that they'll run 40, 50 yards and then turn to look back. That's what they were doing, but it was too thick to get a shot. So we bumped. I don't think we bumped a buck, but we bumped like for sure 3 mule deer does, because they were, dude, huge bodied.
Gray ghosts.
Yeah, and then I think we bumped 1 white-tailed doe. But other than that, like, we seen some good sign in there, but it wasn't something feasible. Like, you'd have to set up in there, and it's like, okay, if we're going to set up somewhere, we're going to go on one of these other pieces that has these glass and knobs, because there ain't no way you can walk through it quietly. Plus, Jesse, said he stepped on a snake there, and he was out after that. But yeah, that's basically what we did until we all reconvened on that one lone oak knob.
Yeah. Well, you think that in those areas, you think like, okay. You think of mule deer, traditional spot and stalk, or even whitetail, like, hey, I'm going to get up on a knob and I'm going to glass down and be able to see antlers sticking out of the grass. That's kind of what we were going for with where we were headed in Nebraska. But like you said, with the grass,
it was almost like that.
They just disappeared. It was like not like that prairie grass of like, 2 foot tall, a big set of antlers would stick out above it. If a deer bedded in that grass, they were disappearing. I mean, grass still 3 foot above their antlers where they would be. And so that was kind of one of the issues that we had. But the evening before the opener, Gabe and I walked into this piece of walk-in, and you guys had spotted out the big landmark tree, right? Just a big tree on the hill. And I said Gabe walked in, and I walked in there. It was almost a mile. and set up to glass for the evening because you could see into those drainages. And what I realized is you can't see nearly as much as you think when you get down in them.
Mm-hmm.
You realize how many more little fingers and topography is in there than you actually see. But I was sitting there thinking, well, it's not going to do us any good for me and Gabe to both look at the same thing. So I was like, you park right here. You already have the camera. I'm going to hike up on this other glass and knob and look down into 3 or 4 other cedar cuts. And Gabe had a buck, probably 130, real nice 10, velvet 10, just that real amber-colored velvet whitetail. He stepped out of a bed about 30, 40 yards from Gabe and worked off over the ridge 100 yards away. And we were thinking right then, wow, if that buck comes to bed in there, we know exactly where he was bedded. We're going to go in and get after him. Obviously, that wasn't the case because I went home empty-handed. But I'm trying to think on the opener. You guys went back to that the spot we had been scouting. You saw a deer every time you sat there, I'm sure.
Right, which, again, like, you get caught in this, you never want to leave deer to find deer. But then again, it's like those dinks and does will also give you, like, well, if they're there, and they got fawns running around, surely the big boy has to be around here somewhere. Right. You know what I mean? So, like, it would always give you that sliver of hope, but then you're like, man, you got to think we're on borrowed time here. You know what I mean? Like we got to be home in 2 or 3 days, and drive back all the way to Oklahoma, and it's like it's a hop, skip, and a jump to get back up here. So you're like, well, if we're not in them now, then we need to find out where they are. And so it's just kind of one of those predicaments, and it just sooner or later it drove us out of that spot.
It's 55 through here, by the way. I don't know why. I think we're coming up on a town.
Yeah.
We're making our way through the plains of Oklahoma. But, yeah, so me and Gabe went in there and had really good glassing encounters in the mornings, like to the point where the majority of the deer we were seeing were on private, little bucks, a lot of little whitetail bucks, maybe muley does. Never really glassed up any mule deer in the mornings, but we would sit from a distance. Me and Gabe would get up on a different knob farther away from that big landmark tree, and we're really getting into the deer enough to keep you entertained, right? Enough to where they're 1,000 yards away, but you're like, it's better than seeing nothing. So we were glassing up a lot of deer, and in the evenings, our plan was to come back to that same glassing knob, watch a deer work one of those cedar cuts, whether on top or dropping down in one, and you got a red light coming up too. I could barely see it with the friggin' sun.
Yeah, I couldn't even see that, to be honest.
And jumping down on in those cedar cuts and just going after the deer. And honestly, that's exactly what we did the first night. We got up on one of those knobs, and we were looking for that mid 130 or that 130-inch whitetail, and we ended up running into a muley. And the muley was probably, I think if I'm being generous, I'd say 100 inches. Generously. Yeah. But it was a velvet muley, and the gray is so distinctly different than a white-tailed coat. And so you're like, that's a muley. And Gabe was like, what do you want to do? I'm like, you stay back here and film. I'm running after him. So Gabe's got a cool clip of me running down for the mule deer and the deer cresting over the hill and dropping into this cedar bottom. And I work, so the mule deer drops down into the cedar cut, and I wait for him to do it. And the topography change, I don't know, it's not huge, but what would you say, like 30, 40 feet in topography down in those deeper cuts?
Oh, yeah.
Like probably. You could look down in them like that. So when they get into cut, as long as you don't get winded, you're going to be able to get around them. Mm-hmm. And so I went around him, I snuck around the edge of the cut, and I peeked out into the opening of that cut, and I saw that mule deer feeding at about 100 yards. And so I was like, okay, I see exactly where he is. Right then, I get behind another cedar. I take my boots off because I'm like, this grass is crunchy. I'm going to take my boots off and see what I can do. Well, I go to tiptoeing above that grass with my boots off, and just like you said, one of those little micro drainages, right? Mm-hmm. One of those little micro drainages. As I'm coming over the hill, cresting probably 50, 60 yards from where I saw that mule deer, 25 yards behind me. There's a white-tailed doe and a full velvet, probably 80-inch white-tailed buck with her in one of those cuts, and I had just walked 20 yards from them, and they had just had enough of me walking real close to them. So I never saw the mule deer bust. I never saw where he went, but that white-tailed doe, they spooked. Mm-hmm. But I knew they didn't know exactly what it was because when I came over the cedar cut, I looked down and I could just see clear as day where both their beds were. And they would bed in those little bitty secondary cuts, and up against them in the bank in the tallest grass in the whole cut. And so you could just see their beds very clear. So I worked over that cut. Actually, I went back, got my shoes, boots, worked over that cut, and then worked over the next one. And when I say worked, I mean taking steps at a pace of like...
I don't know how you went barefoot in that.
Oh, it sucked. It was like...
Yeah, because I was a little stick-tight magnet.
Oh, yeah.
It was horrible. Horrible.
And there's cactus, too.
Yeah, there's a few. What is this dude doing?
We got a motorcycle cop.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah, I think we got a DoorDasher. No, but, yeah,
Whoa.
I walked through him, and, Harley Davidson. Nice.
Well, it's 55. Oh, shit, it's 45, actually. Whoopsies.
So I worked over that cut, and I was walking at a snail's pace. I mean, a step, wait 2 or 3 seconds, a step. And so I crested this last hill walking up to private. So I'm getting really close to the private line. I'm probably 100 yards from the private line. And in the direction of where those deer went, because I'm thinking, I didn't booger them too bad. They just boogered because I was stepping in the grass near them. They just blew. They didn't even look back. It was just a get up and run.
Had to.
Yeah. Those 2 deer that I bumped, that whitetail doe and the basket rack velvet buck, they worked off. I got closer to private, and as I kind of crested a hill, I probably got 2 steps into the hill, and there was 1 cedar to my right. So my only piece of cover in like 100 yards. When you just see like a little bit of movement coming like about grass high, and you're like, oh, that's a deer. Well, I kind of knelt down a little bit. That doe starts working out immediately. And as soon as she works out, behind her I just see a rat coming out of the grass, and I was like, that'll do. And so I sat there, and she comes.
This is day 2?
This is day 1 of the muley trip, yeah. So that first evening, and I got in there, and she could tell that something was up, but she came out, and at about 45 yards, she could tell that's not another cedar tree. Because I was just completely in the open, like crouched with my bow and my foot. And she's like, that's not a cedar tree. And the buck behind her's like this. Is it not? Like,
do we run now?
Yeah. He's like looking at her for confirmation, and she's not giving, like, he's just behind, like, I'll do what you do.
Yeah.
And
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, just love drunk. Because a 3-year-old doe is just as smart as a 5-year-old buck. The does they just give it to you year after year. But she keeps working in, and she does what I sometimes call the handcuffs of death. Mm-hmm. She walks into, knowing that I am there the whole time, decides, I'm getting as close as I can until this sucker moves. You know what I mean? Like where they bluff you?
Right.
And she like literally is keeping her eyes on me and just going like right at me. And I'm like, you mother so. And so I have my rangefinder in my hand. And when she like will turn to look back at him, I'll like go up like this, hit her with a range. And she's like 25 yards. And so I'm like, okay, she's in shooting range, whatever. So I start ranging her buck, and he's back there like 50, 55, 60. And he's just sitting there poking out of the grass with her. Eventually, she gets to where, like, I don't know if she caught me ranging or she just decided the gig was kind of up. But she eventually, like, stomps at me a couple times. And I'm like, okay, she's fixing to go anyway. So I kind of raise my rangefinder up a little bit quicker. I range him. She starts blowing, but she's doing that blowing when a deer knows you're there, but they refuse to leave, which is like the worst blowing. You're like, if you're gonna blow, run away.
Right.
And she's just like, ha, just staring me down. Ha.
What is the buck doing at this time?
He's in the back, like, I mean, just wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, just looking at me. And he doesn't even know where I'm at. He's like, I believe you.
Yeah.
And he's just, and she's blowing her head up. And
dang.
Man, sorry, guys.
Should have brought mine that I couldn't find.
Yeah, we needed Jake's Chinese stand. This one falls.
I think mine was Taiwan, but go
ahead.
Oh,
no worries. He's sitting in the back doing that, just the love drunk stare into the abyss. And
you're gonna say, you say love drunk, people's gonna be like, it ain't the rut. It ain't the rut.
Well, he's hanging out with his girlfriend, and nobody's challenging him yet on it, so he loves it.
Okay.
It's like a first date, and. Anyways, eventually she keeps blowing. At some point of her blowing, after 20 seconds, I'm like, okay, screw it. I'm going to range him because she's obviously going to fixing to pop. And so I just literally at this pace pull up my rangefinder, range him at 55. I'm like, awesome. So I go to put my rangefinder down, and it like clicks on my bino harness. Like it just hits another piece of plastic. And it was like a tap like this. And she's like, and she just, after she sees me range, so she runs off, and he bounds, and I get a range on him at 55, and he's bounding over the hill. And I get in a full draw on him at 55, and I'm like, Matt, following him the whole time. He never stops. So he eventually just runs over into the cedar cut. And so long story short, in the process of stalking a mule deer, I don't start yawning. We still got a long ways.
No, I'm good. I just it was one of those catching your breath yawns. You know
okay,
what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, right.
So
I just had 300 milligrams of caffeine. Okay, Black Rifle coffee. I'm about to be woke. I'm about to be more woke than most liberals. All right.
That's woke. So, anyways, I went in to stalk a muley and ultimately end up accidentally running into another velvet whitetail and a white-tailed doe. So that was kind of it on that day.
That was your day one?
That was my first day of actual hunting. So
gotcha.
What did you guys do that evening? You went and sat at a different piece of public, right? And glassed up.
Nope. It was the same dinks and does where we were trying to wait on that. We thought we were making a move on. It was the same area, different spot, and we set closer to where Jesse seen the big mule deer. I put that in quotations for the people listening, because we did not see a big mule deer. We seen the same doe, 2 fawns, and maybe like another doe that we seen for like 30 seconds. It hit one of those micro drainages and never seen again. And that was it. And the whole time I'm questioning Jesse, like, hey, are you sure you weren't just sleep deprived? I know we've been up here 2 days, like prior, but like, are you good? Did you actually see that? And he was like, no, like, I promise you I seen that. Well, that evening, no. It was the second evening. Second evening there. We were setting, well, I'm sorry. That wraps up day one, I assume, for both of us, correct?
Yep.
We'll go chronologically.
Yep.
Day 2. It was, Gabe, pause this. We were home on the 4th, correct? Or
we only hunted 2 full days.
Okay, so then day 2.
Yep, day 2 was another full day, and you hunted a morning. So we only hunted like 2 full days.
Okay,
Yeah.
Then I have my stuff backwards then.
Okay, continue.
I have my stuff backwards.
You guys hunted one more morning in the drainage, and then you came and glassed with us, and we hunted one more. Oh, we hunted 3 full days and a morning.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say something ain't adding up.
It ain't adding up, folks.
3 full days. Okay, so yeah.
Cut this, Gabe.
Yeah.
Restart now.
Yeah, so that was it for the first day. And then the second day, for the morning sit, we set, the same spot. We were over a little bit. No. We set the same spot, and we seen the same doe and 2 fawns. But after about like 9:30, probably pushing 10, you were texting us from that oak knob saying that like you had some deer coming back from the corn. So I'm like, okay, if they're leaving the corn, they're probably going back to bed, correct?
Mm-hmm.
For the morning. And I was telling Jesse, I was like, okay, this is what they're seeing. They're probably already basically going to bed. So what we did is we kind of snuck around the main ravines right there, because we were kind of off on like 1 or 2 that kind of met up together, and we're waiting on them. We're waiting exactly where Jesse said the other one, the big buck, came from. And so we were getting closer to the main, I guess, artery of ravines, and we crept around this one spot, and I walked upon this one ravine because we were having to go by it to get to the main one, and I seen one of those fawns that we seen prior with the mom, but I didn't see the mom or the other fawn anywhere. And there was just one fawn in there like 30 yards under me. Just got up, looked at me, and like, what the heck are you?
Mom, there's something on this ridge.
And I was like, I told Jesse, I was like, dude, if that was a buck, we'd be celebrating right now.
He'd be running off.
Exactly. Yeah, really. But so he kind of tried to run off and tripped himself up on a log and like fell, and then he just ended up, this is where I'm bedding. He can't see me now. And we went on, and we were kind of like walking and trying to scan like down these ravines, and all of a sudden Jesse's like eye level with the next knob across from this ravine. He's like, there's a deer right there. And he said he's seen just a butt of a deer. And so we're like, well, heck, let's creep on around this way. We try to go down this one drainage, and it's like deep, and it has like fallen logs and trees all in it. And like, okay, can't cross here, so we had to go around, which is only like maybe 150-yard detour. Wasn't horrible. And as we're kind of cresting it, the wind's like at our back, but the deer was over here, so we're like, okay, we can swing around and hopefully see what that deer was. That might have been that big buck. Well, as we do that I know it's kind of hard to explain. I'm trying to explain it for the auditorial listeners.
The viewers' eyes are looking two directions like, it's making sense.
Yeah, so we got basically a potential buck. That's all, folks.
There was a potential spot that we were looking at.
Exactly. There's a potential buck over here probably at our 2 o'clock, and the wind's blowing at maybe our 11. Well, as we're swooping around this ridge or this little ravine, we see 3 huge mule deer doe at our 11 o'clock. And we're like, oh, shoot, which they're 200 yards off. But so our wind is blowing 11 o'clock as well. And so we just kind of pause here, and we're like, let's wait for them to move, and then we'll kind of like, just see what's up. But plus we're on a pretty good knob, and we're like, let's just wait here. Long story short, the wind is catching drift, and the does are smelling it. But it's not like, this is when I realized mule deer and whitetail are not the same. Whitetail deer, if they would have smelled what they smelled, they would have been in the next 2 counties. Mule deer, they like shot their heads up. They were walking in circles, like they're in like a 20-yard radius. They were walking in circles, like, did you fart? Did you fart? Did you fart? Like,
they're looking at
something
each other
was
with
up.
The Spider-Man meme.
Basically,
who did it?
And
which one of you's been sleeping with a human?
Then like one would like kind of prance off maybe 15 yards, and then turn around and walk back to the other 2. Like, what are we doing here? Like what are we doing? Like, does anyone have a game plan? This is not a drill. What do we need to do? And long story short, we just ended up backing off. Those does stayed the same, like stayed there. They didn't care. Well, they did care, but they didn't know what to do about it. And so we backed out, and I think it was that. I forget what it was, but I think we just actually went and chilled, waited for y'all to get back. And, and that's what we did before the evening hunt, which the evening hunt's kind of interesting. So I'll let you tell your morning side of day 2 first.
It was similar. We saw a handful of little bucks, nothing big, just feeding kind of back and forth between the corn and onto that private, and then glassing up just miscellaneous deer in different cuts, moving to and from bedding. So nothing super exciting. I did want to comment on the steepness of the hill when you said you went over and were like, no, can't go down that one. I tried to go back down a steep one to get back on those that velvet buck that I jumped in my socks with my bow, and I tried to go down real quick, and I promise you my feet went like to my head, and I went kaboom, and
really?
just hit on my back, and I was like, ow. I mean, and I slid down. I was like, do.
Oh, no.
And I had to stop, so I did eat crap. And I remember I hit my elbow, and I was like, owie. I mean, it didn't feel too good. But yeah, that was.
You didn't have mega elbow after that
dude,
one, or no?
I found it. Did you ever tell you what that was?
Nah.
It was bursitis.
What's that?
So you have a fluid sac in your elbow, and it's supposed to cushion your elbow. Well, it can fill up with fluid as a way to protect like a tender part of your elbow. Okay. And so I eventually got up to like a golf ball. Two golf balls under there. Way bigger than it was before.
Oh, really?
And I had to take like 2-3 weeks off jiu-jitsu because the swelling wouldn't go down.
What does swelling on your elbow have to do with swelling
on
your butt?
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. So
nothing super eventful.
Nothing major. Well.
Listen, guys, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for you all. So we just want to say that you guys are greatly appreciated, and thank you for following along each week.
And speaking of support, we are partnered with Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, Matt and Chase are great, down-to-earth guys, and they make some of the best saddle hunting products out there. Whether you're looking for a set of climbing sticks or a mobile, lightweight, hang-on tree stand, or maybe you're even a one-sticker.
You mean tree Pilates?
Yes, tree Pilates. If you've been to the grocery store or the gas station lately, you know that Uncle Joe is doing his absolute worst to take all your money. That's why we need hunting gear that lasts year after year. And trust me, I've been rocking the same Out on a Limb Shakar climbing sticks for 4 years and the Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform for a few years as well. This gear is built to last.
We can confidently say that Out on a Limb is the best bang for your buck.
And it's the best gear if you want to deflate a big old buck.
Ooh. Make sure you use code HNTA15 at outonalimbmfg.com for 15% off anything on their website.
So if you can show them the same support that you guys show us, please go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Fast forward to the evening for me and Jesse's spot. Nothing really eventful, but we went to try to hunt that same spot that we'd seen those 2 or 3 mule deer doe and possibly that big mule deer buck that Jesse was talking about on this other kind of little glassing knob. It was a lot closer to the, like, I guess the heart of all those ravines, which would make sense why the mule deer would be sticking around there, right?
Yeah.
But the wind was just completely wrong. We tried it. We're like, well, around those ravines it maybe tends to swirl or whatever. No. Wherever we were waiting for them to come up at or down, whatever, the wind was just smoking right there. And after about 30 minutes of sitting there, I was like, Jesse, I can't do this no more. Like, it's driving me insane having the wind blow right there. I said, I can't be at peace with this, and we gotta dip. And of course, at this point, it's like maybe 6:50, 7 p.m. Of course, for reference, it gets dark around 8:10, 8:20 maybe.
Yeah.
So we didn't have long, and so by the time it was a mile back to the truck from there. And but the whole time we were there, we were kind of like, trying to get on other knobs and like, okay, maybe this one will work. Couldn't see crap. And so we were like, all right, let's just go back to the truck. We'll go around and kind of try to watch these knobs from the other way, from the other side of these ravines. So that's what we try to do. Well, on our way around this property, we seen 2 big mule deer bucks.
Pause. What's big?
That's hard to say. What do you think they were? You seen the video?
Probably like 140s.
Shooters.
Yeah.
Is what I call
140, like 18, 19 inches wide.
I mean, yeah, they were good mule deer.
Good 2s, good 3s, obviously no eye guards. I don't know if that splits or not. Just good framed mule deers.
Yeah, biggest thing we've seen the whole trip. And it's so far.
Full velvet.
We've been there like 4 days, I think. And, so that basically wrapped up that because we went and tried to glass the other side and no action whatsoever. So that wrapped up our day 2 evening.
So at this point, we're obviously we're not hopeful, but we're hoping for a mule deer. But we're getting into We'll settle for a whitetail. Not settle. It was gonna be awesome for a whitetail. But I ran into the landowner on that second evening, and I talked to the landowner who had this piece in walk-in and got good dude. Talked about how he used to come out to Western Oklahoma when he owned a ag spraying business and. Just talked for about 15 minutes, and I was asking him about the split. Like, hey, you see mule? You obviously own this for a long time. He runs cattle on it. You see mule deer or whitetail or both? And he said there are both, but he said I would say it's 90% whitetail. And based on the 30-ish deer I probably saw in there over a course of a few days, I saw 1 mule deer for sure. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of made sense to me, which kind of puts it in perspective of like, okay. You're hunting whitetail. Like, when it comes down to it, you're hoping for a mule deer, right? But you're primarily hunting whitetail in the area that we were, which, and talk about a different style of whitetail hunting, we were basically, I don't even know if you'd call it spot and stalking. We're spotting and cutting off whitetail. That's what we're doing. Like, we're trying to spot them
there ain't no
and cut them off.
Seeing them.
In a bed.
Watching them bed, and then going after them. There's none of that.
No. Because if you get up on a glassing position where we were hunting in Nebraska and you see a deer disappear in a cut, you walk down on that cut and you realize, oh, there's 5 more mini cuts in here.
Yeah.
So there's no...
And the grass is...
waist high
or tall.
chest high. So there is no identifying, like, for a certain fact that's exactly where that deer's bedded.
Plus, it wasn't like these clean cuts where it's just like, oh, there's a ravine right here and it's all waist-high grass or chest-high grass. Mm-mm. They had cedars and some other, like, locust trees or whatever. And it was, in some parts, pretty thick. So it wasn't like, oh, okay, you could just sit here and then, like, glass these and see if one would stand up and then make your... No, it wasn't like that at all. It's like, as soon as they went into those, like, big ravines, they were gone.
They're gone, disappearing. Yeah. And I would totally understand why they would enjoy that. It's great deer habitat. The ability to disappear immediately, so it makes complete sense. But from a spot and stalking perspective, you have to stay high, or if you get down in the bottoms, you have no visibility. You give all your visibility up. And
you can't creep through those ravines. It's too loud.
Right, exactly. So, and there's some of those little micro cuts that when you walk in them, you really got to watch your step, because they'll be head-high grass, and you can fall 3 to 4 feet deep in another like little washout.
I did that in gopher holes.
Yeah, and you can fall even deeper. So that's kind of what we were doing. We weren't stalking per se. We were spotting and trying to cut off. Yeah. And it's tough to cut off a deer on the when they're walking, when you're 1,000 yards away and you're trying to get in front of them and know exactly where they're going. So anyways, that's kind of what we did. And then day 3, we all decided, hey, Jake and Jesse have kind of hunted this spot out in terms of what you guys weren't seeing anything new.
There was like 7 total pieces that we could hunt in that little area, probably like 30-minute drive area, and you guys were definitely on them. Like we, from what we seen, either the spots were trash or it was just the same dinks and does, right? And at this point, dinks would be okay, but they weren't consistent either.
We welcome it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
it's funny when you drive 8 hours north of your house and you're like, I'll shoot a forky.
Yeah, it's like if I wanted to shoot these, I could just wait till October 1st and probably fill my tag easily here in Oklahoma with that. Right. And it's like, but here I am, 8 hours away from home. So what we did is we were like, hey, you all been sitting in that spot for a while, and they were like, okay, we can either have 2 shooters down on these cuts and then or a shooter and
a camera guy.
Yeah, basically just split up on this one property where we've been seeing deer, and kind of try to set up where we expect them to come from. So there's really not a spot and stock. It's like, okay, that's over with. Now it's basically just a sit and wait scenario, but there's no trees to hang in. So you're basically just sitting sitting on the ground.
But we went out there, all of us, all 4 of us, almost a mile away from where we were seeing most of the deer, and we glassed a few up that first morning, a few little bucks.
Yep, morning of day 3. Yep.
Yeah, saw a few little bucks, and the thing was in the morning.
There was a decent buck that morning, probably like 120-ish.
On private.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, on private. Nothing that you could be like, oh, hey, those deer are working off public. Let's cut them off before they get into private. More of like they're on private. We know they're probably going to be on private.
Yeah, that's where all the food was.
Right. So we kind of backed out early, got breakfast, and went to town. And then we came back that evening with a different plan of that's where we came up with the split up. Like, you guys go down into that cut where we're seeing the majority of the deer activity funneling off of private onto public and from public onto private. And Gabe and I will stay up, and if we get something in these 3 ravines in between us, we'll go stalk that. And so we set up on those ravines because it was a lot closer of a walk. And we immediately, as soon as we sit down, I look over, I'm like, where's Jake and Jesse? And I see a deer and Jake on top of a hill, and Jesse 5 yards from him on top of a hill, and your bow and your rangefinder in your hand. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to shoot a deer like this.
On the walk in. Well, so we split up, and we're walking along this edge on public, but 15 yards to the left of us is corn, 9-foot tall corn. And we bump a doe, and we're like, okay, sweet, that's cool. Well, we walk another maybe 100 yards, and all of a sudden Jesse's probably 15 yards behind me, and I'm just walking because we still got 3/4 of a mile to go.
It's a ways, yeah.
And I hear Jesse whisper something, and I'm like, wait, what? And I turn around, and he's pointing, and he's like, deer. And I'm like, I kind of look, and I see it's an old slickhead, and I'm like, I start looking. I was like, that nose looks short. I ain't gonna do that again. You know what I mean? From past whitetail experiences.
Fool me once. Shame on me.
Yeah. It's like, hey, listen, I've shot a fawn in my day. All right, I know what one of them look like now. But yeah, I was like, the nose looks weird because at this point, it's nipple high grass, and I'm like, okay, this thing ain't mature. I know that.
It's also letting you look at it.
But then again, I may be tripping. Jesse has a better view of it, and I'm trying to signal is it a fawn? I'm kind of holding my holding my hand down. I'm like, is it a fawn? And he's like, yeah. And sure enough, that thing, I'm still ranging it because it's good practice. And
it's just cool.
I range it, or I try to range it, and then that thing's walking towards us. And all of a sudden, it literally peaks the hill for us and it's looking at us 15 yards away. If
Mom?
And it's like, wait a minute. You ain't what I thought you were. And it bolts off, and it was a cool little interaction for sure.
Me and Gabe got footage of you guys like looking, and I'm thinking, is he not going to shoot? Because I can't tell if it's a buck of doe or a fawn.
It wasn't just like a little doe. It was a fawn. Thanks to fresh spots. And I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, that's no good. So you guys kept pushing in.
Yeah, so we pushed in, and you dropped a pin on where a few of those deer have been like coming out of.
Well, where they were bedded, where I jumped them.
Yeah. And on literally that knob, we went to there, and we're like, okay, this is good, but if they were to come out of this draw right here, we would be caught red-handed.
Yeah, you're not going to see them till they're literally stepping
There wasn't
on
a good cedar right there by it. Like, it was literally, like, granted, we were going to be set down in the grass, but, dude, it was literally a 25 yards until they were out of, like, thick cedars. And so we were like, okay, let's just back up to this little knob right here. It's a little bit higher elevation. We can see a little bit more. And also, like, we were right in the middle of kind of where two drainages split, and so it kind of made a Y, and we were right in the middle of that Y, kind of. And so if they went down in one drainage, we could kind of, like, boot scoot a little bit closer so when they topped it. And that was kind of our game plan, right? Because other than that, it's like, okay, what are we going to do? Let's just give it a shot. We weren't set down, I kid you not, 15 minutes. And we might have got out there a little late, but it couldn't have been 6:50, 7 o'clock, something like that. And all of a sudden, like straight in front of us, maybe 100 yards down that little ravine, was a buck. And it was the biggest buck we've seen in shooting range,
Yeah.
And I say shooting range, like potential shooting range. And then we're like, oh, pretty good buck too. And so we're all like scrambling, the hard dunk, 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 dunk. And we get, binos on it, and it's like it looked a lot bigger at the time, but I would have shot it anyways. It was about 100, what do you think, 115, 120 inch?
I think 115, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think 120 would be generous.
Yeah, I think it would be too. Well, it starts...
An early season 120, a mid-season 110.
Yeah, but with the velvet...
You're like, that's at least 5 inches.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's 120 all day, but
the mass. Yeah.
But yeah, it steps out and it starts kind of like milling around, and we're sitting there and I'm ranging it, and of course we're just out in the middle of this freaking cow pasture. It almost feels like, and I range it 107. I'm like, cool. So I start kind of like booty scooting kind of towards it a little bit.
By the way, the entire time, Gabe and I can see you and Jesse, and it doesn't seem like as soon as you guys sit down, I'm like, he's ranging a deer.
Yeah. And
I was like,
I was
lucky. And
I was. And so I scoot maybe 5 yards closer. And, of course, I get caught up in the moment because as soon as I see it and it puts its head down below the grass, I'm like immediately start scooting. My phone and my binos are
in between your legs?
No, are 10 yards up right by Jesse.
Oh.
And so I'm like, I can't see it. So all I have to like glass, so to speak, is my rangefinder. And this thing's about 100 yards away, and it starts to walk on the left side of this one little ridge or this one little drainage. And so I scooted up a little closer, so I'm like 15 yards from Jesse. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I just wait, and I look back to Jesse. I'm like, did it for sure go behind that ridge? It didn't just like put its head down for a second. And of course, we can't communicate because he's like still trying to look at the buck, and like he's not telling me any information.
As a camera guy, sometimes you got to step back and be like, it's on you.
Yeah, I know. I get that, but I don't have my binos or anything, and I don't want to move.
Help me.
Yeah, I'm like, toss me my binos or something. I don't know. Because, like I'm literally, like, handcuffed here. Because I'm like, if I move and that thing's, looking at me, then I don't know. And I can't.
Jesse's like,
it's
just
too far to see. Exactly. It's too far to see for me with my naked eye, like, for sure what he's doing, or maybe if I can't catch the antler. So I sit and wait, and all of a sudden I see its head walking the other way, kind of the back the way it came, and I see, the antlers bobbing, and I'm like, okay. There he is. And then I don't see it no more. Like, it just disappeared. And I'm like, what the heck? And so I get up, and I kind of, like, try to work my way over towards it and get on top of this, the top of the ravine that it was down in. And Jesse has it on film and stuff. And I get probably, I get to where I'm looking over that ravine probably 30 yards from where I last seen him at.
Are you sitting there going, Houdini?
Yeah, and I'm like, where did this buck go?
exactly
like,
how I felt. The mule deer.
and so like I'm looking this way and I wait probably 15, 20 seconds and I don't see anything, and then it kind of loops around this way, and so I walk over there and I kind of look and I don't see anything over there, and I'm like looking back to Jesse and I'm throwing my hands up like, where did it go? And he was like, I don't know. And so I literally just kind of, obviously quietly, but I walk back up to Jesse and I don't sit down and turn around and ask him like, dude, where'd that buck go? He's like, it's right there. I couldn't have been 30 yards from it
The whole time.
and I don't know if it just bedded down for a second and it stood back up or what, but like he literally popped up exactly right where we last seen him at. And I'm like, dude, I was just 30 yards from it. Like, how?
I bet he bedded down for a second.
Maybe, but yeah, like I couldn't see him, and I'm thinking, holy cow, like that, like it started to worry me. I was like, these things can disappear in an instant. Well, I'm now up there with Jesse, still probably 107, 105 yards away from it. It starts kind of milling its way towards us, and it's getting closer the whole time. Like I'm on my knees, I got my bow propped up on my arm, and I'm like ranging it. Okay, 102. You know, a little bit later, 30 seconds later, 97. It works its way all the way down to 80 yards. And at this point, like I'm like, okay, it's at this point it knows we're there. It's seen movement, but it's just windy enough that the grass is moving and all that stuff. And I think it's onto us, but it's just far enough away, and he has a clear sight of us that it's like, okay, I'm aware of you, but I'm not intimidated, nor am I like threatened because of this distance away.
It's also that early season.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's also that early season. Like, I don't know. I feel like when they get busted a few times throughout the year, they get way more sensitive, to that
Probably.
stuff. And early season, they just don't have that. It seems like I don't know. Call it testosterone level. Call it aggressiveness. Call it attentiveness. I don't know what you want to call it.
Maybe just paranoia.
They don't have it as much in the early season. It's like they're kind of like, yeah, I see that. I don't care.
But it almost reminded me of like that. You know how antelope are, where it's like, okay, I see you 500 yards out there, but as soon as you break that 250-yard bubble radius around me, then I'm freaked out.
Well, also from our perspective, where you guys were sitting, there was a slope where you were sitting. Your backdrop was into the hill. And you had stuff. So in an image, you're always thinking foreground, middle ground, and background for good composition. For breaking up your silhouette, you had background grass moving, you had and you had foreground grass moving. And it was just swaying enough probably for him to be like, I see a silhouette, but I don't know exactly what that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what it was. Because deer have 20/60 vision. Their vision far is not the best. And
they mainly try to pick up movement.
Right. And so if you're staying still and there's a still, and there's a lot of of those little bitty just micro swaying in the grass, I think as long as you're still, like that doe where I was sitting at 20 yards, she knew I was there, but I wasn't moving. So she was like, am I tripping?
Yeah.
Like she's looking at me like, I know he's there. I'm not going to quit looking at it, but it hasn't moved enough for me to run.
Yeah. Which in whitetail terms,
what is this guy doing?
He was very chill. Like this buck was very, very, very chill.
A typical early season buck.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
and so
chilling.
like he was kind of milling its way, and he got within 80, and I looked back and I'm like, I think I'm going to do it, because the wind started to die down a little bit, and I was confident, dude. Like I was making very good groups at like my max before my sight tape maxes out is like 92, 94ish. And I was happy at that. And I was like, okay, 80 yards. What more can I expect from sitting in a cattle pasture on a whitetail?
In a traditional whitetail hunting scenario, 99% of your shots are going to be under 40 yards.
Right.
When you're spot and stalking or spot and cutting off like
Right.
we were doing, in open country like that,
It was literally the definition of a cattle pasture.
just a cattle pasture.
Yeah.
That is I'm telling you, when you see them under 100 yards in an open pasture, you're just like, they're right there.
Yeah.
They look a lot closer. So, I mean, is that a far shot? Yes, but it's pretty close in that open country.
Where we were, like, yeah, it wasn't bad. So,
But that was the end of the line. You weren't getting any closer. You weren't butt scooting.
No, and no, I couldn't scoot towards him. And yes, he was kind of working his way. I think he was working his way towards like the drainage to the left.
I think it was diagonal to you for the most part.
It was diagonal, but I was so obviously when you're hunting and you're in this situation, a lot of different things are running through your head, right? It's like, okay, if I let him try to get closer, he could have probably got 20 yards closer before he got into that Y of that drainage, and then I had to kind of creep up on him to see him again. He probably would have been like 60-ish probably if everything went perfectly. But I was worried about him disappearing again in like those little cuts, because there was like I could see like a little bitty one, and just probably 10 yards away from him, and I'm like, okay, if he takes that, then he's kind of lost unless he pops back up again. Like,
and they look small
out of that drainage.
But when you get up on him, you're like, oh, that's 6 foot deep.
Yeah, that's
deep.
a definite trail right there.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of worried about that too, but I was ranging him. It was like 78. Okay, ranged him again, 80, 78, 80, and so I was like, okay. At 92, my groups yesterday were just like still good group where I'd be confident with, but it was just a smidge low. I'm going to aim for 80 because like it was either 78 or 80. Well, in that time, I get my sight tape dialed and I draw back. He was kind of like quartered to just slightly, and I was like, I'm trying to wait on him to stretch out just like a little bit. But by doing so, I think he took like a couple more steps. I know he did. But I was like, can't affect it that much. Like, I was thinking maybe a yard. Well, I shoot, and dude, it feels good. Shot broke clean, I thought, and like I wasn't like as nervous. And it's something I tried to implement this year. It was like I'm trying to hold my shot for a couple more seconds before I release the arrow.
Yeah.
Just to try to like settle myself and be like, okay, hey, let's not rush it. This is what we've been looking forward to all year. Let's not rush this. Like,
we're at the goal line.
Yeah, let's make this moment as efficient as possible. So like let's live in it a little bit. And so
this is your element.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I tried to so I just waited like 3 or 5 more seconds, and then I pulled it.
And it broke clean.
And yeah, and I even watched it back, and yeah,
it broke really clean.
It looked like it broke clean.
It was not a trigger punch. It was nothing.
But yeah, I shot, and I thought I hit it because it got the heck out of Dodge. And usually if you bump something, from what we've experienced, just in our short time there, if something catches you, it kind of runs back a little bit and then like looks back like, what?
Yeah.
This thing did not do that. It did that, maybe ran 50 yards around this other bend, and then I got up and started like running horizontally to it to try to like look around the bend to see where it's going, and I think that's when it busted off again, and because I thought I hit it.
Yeah.
But watching the footage back, I didn't hear that thunk or anything like that. It was just, so I didn't know. Long story short, we find the arrow, clean miss, but look
at the whistle.
Yeah, watching the footage back, it had a little bitty drop time. So even if it was 115 inches, personally, that drop time is maybe another 2 inches, but
it was a drop time though.
And a drop time on full velvet adds like at least 20 inches.
Yeah, so it's like mid-50s probably.
Basically, yeah, basically.
Yeah. No, he was a cool buck. We didn't notice the drop time until like watching the footage back on my computer.
Yeah, no.
So it was freaking.
But overall, I mean, it was fun. I mean, I don't think you all seen that encounter, did you?
No, we saw you once you dropped down to get a shot. I mean, we could see you most of the time, but I think we lost you before the shot. So I mean, it was cool to watch it from different perspectives. It's very weird to see. You're seeing it from a perspective like when you're walking up on that fawn, right? You're looking down on her.
Mm-hmm.
We're like sitting over here like, I can see it clean as day. Just shoot it. And obviously not to shoot a fawn, but if that was a buck, it's weird the perspective change because you get down in that grass and it just changes everything. Your eye, what you're looking at changes, your perspective changes, and it makes you realize why those deer love to call that place home. It is the ideal situation.
Oh, it
for
is
them.
safe. I bet you.
Disappear. Honestly, just bed down. You don't even got to run. Just bed down and you'll disappear. Because we were finding those beds in those little secondary cuts, and they'd be bedded up against the one tree in grass that it's like so deep you have to like get above it to look down.
And they were tucked in those cedars sometimes too.
Yeah.
Like it's like, dang, I've barely seen that.
Yeah. So it was kind of a one. You might say, why are you guys shooting at 115-inch deer out of state? One, I think you really do have to set your expectations for where you're going. Nebraska, on public land, where we're hunting, are there some nice deer? Yeah, absolutely. But I talked to our buddy Joel Burham whitetail fit, and his brother Ethan, and they were like, yeah, 130-inch deer is probably some of the top end you're going to be seeing on public. So we saw one of those. You originally thought it was that buck that you shot.
I did. I mean, dude,
the one
you
we
see
saw the week
something
before, or a few days before.
with horns, and you don't have to like put glass on it to tell it's a buck. You're like, oh, dude, that's a shooter.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, it was. And Jesse did a really good job on that footage.
Dude,
we got
sick.
some really nice footage. Put
It looks sick.
some of it out on Instagram, but
yeah, everybody did their job except me. Deer did its job. Jesse did its job. You know.
that's like, but it's kind of crazy. You travel like that, and you're shooting at deer that are 20, 30 inches smaller than something you'd be satisfied with at home. But you're like, I just had the most fun.
Oh, dude, that
that
would
I've
have
had
for sure
in a long time.
That would have for sure been one of my like favorite bucks. I think.
So the 80-incher that I blew it on when the doe busted me at 20 yards, I remember I had my my release on my D-loop, and I go, if I kill this buck, I'm just literally thinking in my head, if I kill this buck, this is gonna be my favorite buck I've ever killed. And literally, I'm thinking that before I even shot, and I'm like, God, that's a freaking dink. If that came in at the lease, I wouldn't even. It's stupid to say, I wouldn't put my phone back in my pocket, right? I wouldn't even like look up to look at that deer. But he's in velvet. He's 80 yards. I've just stalked in a mile and a half onto public, and I'm in the game 50 yards, and his doe's at 20. I'm like, this is gonna be my favorite buck that I've ever shot. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm literally like a pig in crap, just excited as could be. And it just reaffirms to me, it's about the experience, not necessarily the size of the animal. It's about the hunt. What happened? How did it happen? What were you doing? How hard did you work for it? That's what determines how fun it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And for me, like, that wasn't going through my head immediately, like, oh, this is going to be my favorite hunt. But looking back, it's like, yeah, I would have loved to take that deer just for that reason. Because, like, dude, the camping situation, right? Like, me and Jesse get down there. I'm supposed to bring a tent for
that's awesome.
for the cameramen. And then me and Christian were supposed to sleep in his rooftop. And, well, I made a boo-boo because I did have a tent that's big enough to fit 2 people with a cot. But you know how tent sizes work. We've talked about this before on the podcast.
Divide it by 3.
Yeah, a 3-man tent is actually a 1-person tent. And in this case, it wasn't even that, because we got this thing and popped it up, and Jesse was like, I don't think we're going to fit. And I was like, what do you mean? Yeah, we're going to fit.
How do you reckon?
It's a 3-man tent. We pop it up, and Jesse tries to stick his cot in it. Only half of his cot will go in. And I'm like, I am so sorry. But luckily, we brought an awning, too, to try to, like, midday keep the sun off of us. And I am speeding horribly. So I told Jesse, I'm like, listen, this is what we'll do. We can either, lower this awning as low as possible. We can both kind of just sleep under the awning and try to make it, like, a tent-wise, which we're still getting hit from the wind on the side, but it's fine. And I said, or you can try to, like, squeeze your cot in there, and I'll just sleep outside. It ain't no big deal to me. And so that's what we did. Jesse squeezed half of his cot in there. That way he had, like, his own little, like, half nooket. And then
He only would have lost his legs if a coyote came up.
Yes, which did happen, actually. Not losing the legs, but a coyote did come up. It was funny. And then I slept outside under the awning, and it wasn't horrible. It did get cold, and you'd be like, oh, it's September. How cold could it get? Well,
it's like 50s.
Yeah, it was kind of a pretty good little cold front for us because, like, in Oklahoma, that leaving, it was like, okay, the day before I was working, and it was like 102. And then all of a sudden,
it was like 108 when I left Texas.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden now I'm sleeping under an awning with wind hitting me from all sides in 52-degree weather. And it's like, that's pretty good little environment shock right there. So, that was my sleeping situation the whole time, was under the awning, which night 2, I was like, you know what? You don't really see these stars, where I'm at in Oklahoma, because, like, I live in town right now. I'm renting, and, like, the light pollution and all that stuff, there's, like, minimal light pollution there. So, like, you can literally see, like, the different colors of black where we were at. And I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did on night 2. I just slept out of the awning. And I just literally looked up at the stars until I went to sleep, which was a little bit of a mistake because everything on me was soaked the next morning when I woke up.
With the dew?
The dew was really heavy right there. Is this Black Mesa?
No, this is not. No, we're still an hour and a half from Black Mesa.
Okay.
I literally thought the same thing. I was like, it's a hill.
Yeah.
We're driving through the panhandle of Oklahoma right now, and there's like, if there's elevation, you're like, it's a mountain.
Yeah. No joke.
No, but dude, you get out there and you can't help but be in a good mood because you're like, I'm under the stars. There's not a single light in the sky or like in the horizon anywhere.
No, there wasn't.
No,
There
like,
wasn't.
No
The
light
light pollution was minimal.
No noise.
Minimal for us, I guess.
Yeah, and you're just looking around and you're like, there's a lot of gratefulness because I'm like, this is awesome. Most people don't get to go do this all the time. This is sick no matter if we kill anything or not. It's just another cool experience.
Every time I see, like, because ever so often we're fortunate enough to go play, or like just, I guess, I say places. I mean, like, usually bordering states or something. But for us, it's like a different view of the sky, or like, you know, in this instance, Nebraska, with like, it's big sky, it's relatively flat. And so you can see, like, it almost, when you're laying on a cot and looking up where we were at with, you know, and you could see like stars really well, it almost felt like you were like in a dome of just like
a black dome.
Yeah, of like space, right? And so every time I like feel that little like sensation like that, I think of like how it was in not the older times, but like when people did like this wasn't weird to do. You know what I mean? Like,
that was every night.
This wasn't roughing it, because to me that's roughing it. But like,
yeah,
for people then, that like that's just what they did. And so it made me think like, okay, is that why maybe faith was stronger back then? Was because people got to look up at God's creation every single night, and you just think to yourself, because that's what I thought in that moment. It's like, how could God not exist?
Oh, 100%.
And so like people don't see that. People look on their phones, which I'm guilty of it too when I'm back home. But like you look at your phone basically,
I love a good TikTok.
Until you go to sleep, and then other than that, you're just in a dark room, nothing to look at, and then you fall asleep. And it's like, to me now, like that's, I mean, obviously I'm not just like transformed, but that's a very boring way to go to sleep now.
It is, yeah.
Like if you think about it like that, and so that, I don't know, that just puts it into perspective. It's like, okay, maybe that's the issue. Like, off topic, it's like people don't see enough of that, so it's like, oh, well, duh, God exists, because look at this.
Look at that coyote. That's a mangy sucker
yeah,
right there.
it was. He didn't care.
No, he didn't. No, well, when I met Lauren, I started to go to like bigger cities. Like I went to Austin for the first time, and I remember just like her family looking at the skyline and going, "Man, isn't that beautiful?" And like to them, to a lot of people, they're like, "Man, that's super beautiful." And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Why not?" I'm like, "It's man-made." Like I don't find any inspiration, and like I find
I understand what they're talking about.
No,
like,
for sure. Like architecture's cool, but I don't find any divinity in it. I don't find any like spiritual, like, wow, look at how God, because it's all man-made.
Right.
When I go out and I see the mountains and like something that could be brushed with the stroke of a finger and created, and you just see it all, like, one, it makes you feel super small in the world. It makes you feel really not important. It makes your problems go away. It changes your perspective. It refuels you as like being.
It does
inside.
too, doesn't it?
You go home, you're like, whew, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
like I want to do it again
for the next wave of first world problems to come at you for sure.
Exactly, but that's it. It's refreshing. Like it's not a. I know I like going out and chasing and shooting big deer and chasing big stuff and finding big stuff on trail camera. There's something uniquely fun about going out, no stakes, no previous experience with a deer, nothing but seeing a deer, hunting a deer.
Yeah.
That's what we were
bringing
doing.
it back to the basics, some would say.
Back to the basics of hunting. Yeah, and that's just fun. Could we go and get a better tag or go with an outfitter in Nebraska and shoot a big deer and go home? Or at least get an opportunity? Yes. But like what we were doing was fun. It's just really fun. Your expectations aren't super high because you have nothing in it except your time and you're going to chase a deer. So that's what that trip was to me, is just good old-fashioned going out chasing deer and having fun with the buddies. And we laughed harder than I've laughed in a long time. Just messing with Gabe, messing with Jesse. We just had it was just fun. Just stupid crap is the funniest.
It was literally like a guy's weekend, and that's all it was.
Yeah, and it was fun. And we got in the deer. We got one opportunity on a deer, and I think we can, once that corn's cut, once those beans get a little sour, turn bitter a little bit, I think we could get right back in them. But I think we could have went and had more of a Kansas type experience in Nebraska if we wanted to hang and hunt and do that. But that spotting, getting up on a hill, glassing, it's fun.
It's just something different.
It's really fun. It's very different. And you just see something with antlers, you're like, there he is, about to go in there and kill him.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to go in there and kill him. Every deer you see is something you'd go after.
It's kind of a different
fun.
thought process too, which I think could help you in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to set your expectations for every trip. And on that one, it was just like, let's go out, have fun, try to shoot a deer, and we did. And from that perspective, we accomplished it. We can probably change our name officially in the early season to Misser's Advantage because one more episode of us talking about a miss, and people are like, I'm going back to somewhere else.
What do these guys know again?
Yeah.
Listen, we can find them.
We can get in the game.
You just can't seal the deal, man.
We can get in the game. We just haven't gave one a tailgate ride yet. So hopefully we can this week. We're headed to old New Mexico.
You better not miss this week. All right. All the other misses are excused. Not this week.
Not this week. This is the we're playing in the Super Bowl of hunting for us. So we're headed to Bugle and Bull Outfitters in New Mexico and talk to shoot, what's his name? It starts with a C. Anyways.
Charlie?
No.
Chad?
I
Chester?
forget. Something similar to that. Curtis. That's what his
Curtis.
name is. Talk to Curtis.
If you guys are anything like us, you love being in the deer woods and chasing big bucks. But there's another part of you that has that itch to chase other big game species.
If you've ever dreamed of chasing black bear, mule deer, or moose, Alberta, Canada is the land of opportunity for these adventure-style hunts.
Each year, hundreds of first-time visiting hunters from around the world come to Alberta for the options, quality, and accessibility that the land offers.
With over 1,800 Boone and Crockett entries and endless possibilities of taking multiple species on a single trip, Alberta is truly a paradise for a big game hunter. This is why we partnered up with the Alberta Professional Outfitters Society. To check it out, go to apos.ab.ca and click Find an Outfitter. From there, you can browse all the different big game species and hunting styles that fit with what you want out of the hunt.
Or you can send a free hunt inquiry through the Follow the Lead tool, and the outfitters who have what you are looking for will reach out to you directly.
So make sure to check out apos.ab.ca to learn all about hunting in Alberta and get connected to the right outfitter for you. So we are headed to elk camp. We're currently in the panhandle of Oklahoma. I think the plan tonight is to get as close to the spot in New Mexico that we're headed, and then pop up the old rooftop and catch some Z's. This is going to be your maiden voyage on the rooftop. But it's like, this is my sixth night sleeping in it in the last 10 days.
I did take a little midday nap when we were in Nebraska, but other than that, as long as it stays cool enough at night, or even if it's a little warm, but it has a nice little draft to it, I will be out like a light, sir.
Yeah, I'm dragging because I woke up and drove 7 hours to Veneta.
Yeah, you did. Georgetown to northeast Oklahoma to New Mexico. Nice.
It's kind of a ping pong drive there.
So currently we still have 7 hours and 8 minutes on the drive,
and it's 8 o'clock in the evening.
Yes.
So you can say we're getting close.
It says we'll be there at 2:23, which we're going to need gas in about another half tank. So we'll probably be, I don't know, I'd say about 2:23 we'll probably be, 45 minutes away from where we probably need to be.
Yeah.
And then we can think about popping up this rooftop.
Probably find us a piece of public land and pop up the old rooftop.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're headed to, we got some big
they're windmill turbines.
Oh, windmill turbines out here. Well, running our environment one windmill at a time. But we're headed to elk camp. We're going to try to get as close as we can tonight and get to camp, sight in the bow.
Dude.
Yeah.
Do you want? No, we shouldn't talk about that.
No. Sight in the bow. Make sure my sight tape's good. We did stop in an archery shop and get some sight tapes. So get that. Make sure we're rolling good on that. And then, honestly, I was talking to Curtis, and we're supposed to be at camp tomorrow. I can't believe we're going to be in camp tomorrow. That's got me kind of jacked. We're going to be in camp by noon tomorrow. Curtis said this 3 times to me. He said, I want to say it again. And he's a super nice guy. He said, I want to say it again. If you show up at noon and I'm not at camp, I'm on a bull. That's what he said, because he hunts too. He's like, I'm on a bull. Don't be alarmed. He said, it might be a couple hours. He said, but feel free to hang out at camp. And so it should be a really good week in New Mexico, man. I mean, our only experience previously, I don't even know if you want to call it experience, hunting elk was a 3-day beat down in Colorado about 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I was digging in that my elk bag, which I bought specifically for elk hunting in Colorado, and it still had my 2019 elk tag in it.
Really?
Yep, and I specifically kept it because I was like, this is going to be a reminder to not ever do anything stupid again.
Never donate
No, dude,
$800.
Dude, that was the stupidest thing. So a little bit of backstory. Me and Christian graduated high school 2015, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same time. So we were supposed to graduate college 2019. You did. I took a victory lap. Why? Leave it up to the viewers. I'm a little
If you've
on
listened to the pod for a while, you know why.
I'm making them at night, Dad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I did that. Well, in that, dude, nobody has money in college unless you want to, take out some debt, which I did not do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on the donating plasma bus, right, for funds. But what I did get is not scholarships, but my bloodline allowed me to get some things. And
They're
also
scholarships.
Huh?
They're technically scholarships.
Okay, yeah, there'd be scholarships.
No, it's not merit based. It wasn't on the education.
It was not merit based. It was bloodline based, I guess. And so I got a little bit of a kickback on that, and I tried to flip a truck every summer to do that. Well, the money I got from I think it was a combination of two. After all this stuff was paid for, all my books and I saved a little bit for rent and whatnot. Was paid for. I had $1,200, and usually, the last couple of years, that would last me a semester or year or whatever.
In 2024, it lasts you at least 2 weeks.
Exactly. Well, what did I do? Well, me and you had a bright idea of going elk hunting, and I was like, hell yeah, $700 for a tag. I'll still have $600 to live on. I'll donate plasma. It'll be fine.
I just got my first job. I'm like, I'm rich.
Yeah. I work for a living now.
Yeah,
well, I didn't.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, so I basically, and what just a $700 tag? It was $750. Well, I didn't have any binos, so I bought binos. Dude, stupid. And I think this is why I still keep the tag. Cause it was I will never do this for hunting again.
It's implanted in your memory.
Yeah, dude, no, it scarred me. Cause I was like, dude, after this, I have no money, and it was the worst hunt I've probably ever been on in my life. It was fun. Don't get me wrong, like adventure-ish type. But I was like, dude, it was stupid. And.
You bankrupted yourself to go.
I did, and it was dumb because, dude, it was so dumb. I forget where we was going. This isn't a pity party. This is a woo! We're going to elk camp. But anyways, that was our last experience with elk. So hopefully this one isn't that situation.
Well, we drove up to I think northern Colorado, and I remember 10 minutes from where we could hunt, we saw a bull on the side of the road running through a guy's pasture. We're like, it's happening.
Yeah.
Going down. We go over. This is just laugh-ass, point fingers, whatever you want. I'm being completely honest. We get over the first hill into this elk hunt, and I look back, and I'm like, dude, I'm missing 3 arrows. Because I had one of those trophy ridge quivers that only has 1 point of containment. And I'm like, dude, where's my arrows? I think I lost 2 right off the bat. And at the time, I was shooting the Rage. They had a collar, so they had the rear deploying collar, that piece of plastic.
The little bands around them.
Not even a band; it's like a little C cup.
Okay.
That was on the back of the broadhead,
like a little clip.
And it breaks. Yeah,
gotcha.
It breaks over on 2 tabs.
Okay.
Well, I had pushed my arrows into the ground. I think sitting my bow down to lean on it, and broke 2 of those.
Nice.
So I was down within an hour. I was down to 1 arrow or 2 arrows left. So I was like, oh, this trip's starting out good. We had our bags. We had them filled up way too heavy.
Probably 70 pounds per person.
It was still 90 degrees in that part of our opening day of
situation.
September. Basically, we just had an eternal optimism that we were going to get in the elk, and we hunted for 2 days or 3 days and didn't, and ended up going home licking the wounds. That's why I always say I donate to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, because I did.
Yeah, we did.
Many years ago.
They had the audacity to call me for a survey. They were like, how was your experience? And I said, horrible. Horrible. And they were like, oh, well, we're sorry to hear that. And then they asked me, did you see any elk? And I was like, yep, on private, on our way there.
100%.
And, yeah. I was like, nah, it wasn't anything y'all did. It was, it was mainly just our whole screw up.
There was a
not planning situation.
There was definitely a lack of mental toughness on that hunt too. That was there wasn't ever even a chance of getting in the game on that hunt.
Not really.
No,
not really.
That was if there's one hunt I think about in my life of man, I didn't really give that one a fair shot. It was that hunt.
Yeah.
It was
easily.
that hunt.
Easily. Well, because by the end of the first night, we were like, okay, listen, if you shoot one, we're going home. Like, I don't even care about my tag. Like, I'm pretty sure I said that before. I was like, no.
Well, we were like,
We ain't
what,
doing
20,
it.
21, 22 or
Something like that.
Yeah, just idiots.
Something like that.
Well, we gave it. I literally almost said we gave it a shot. We did not give it a shot.
Well, we drove 18 out, like something stupid up there to northern Colorado. Then we're like, they ain't here. Let's go more south.
Drove all the way south.
Went to one of the southern units.
Didn't get in.
Camped out a night.
Didn't give it a shot.
Didn't give it a shot, really.
And now here we are with an outfitter. Go figure.
Yeah.
I need this good New Mexico elk hunt after the beating we took in Nebraska. Which we really didn't even take a beating. We were in the freaking.
I think if you're going out to a different state, never been before, if you get a shot opportunity, that's pretty darn good.
What else can you ask for?
Honestly.
I mean, literally, what else can you ask for? But I'd love to say that I have a bunch of expectations for elk camp, but I've talked with Curtis a couple times, and he said in the first couple days of September, a lot of bugling early in the morning, late in the evening, but he said it's kind of as the last week has kind of pitched up, a lot more bugling, and I'm excited for that. I've never heard an elk bugle up close.
We put those back up there.
Yep, no worries.
I bought this hat for a reason.
Yeah, Jake's trying to hurt the liberals' feelings in New Mexico. You do realize New Mexico's liberal.
That's why I'm wearing it. What do you mean? Are they actually blue?
Yeah, they are.
God.
Yeah, they are.
I hope we take the freaking record, the record elk.
And wearing that hat
That way, the record elk was taken by a conservative.
with a MAGA hat too.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've never heard a bugling bull before. We're going with bugling bull outfitters, so I hope that changes. But I was talking with my buddy Landon, who just got back from a Sitka blacktail hunt in Alaska, and he got it done DIY with his bow. And he was like, when you hear the first bugle, you will say, how do I get to September elk hunting every year? You will be asking yourself that question. And I'm hoping
Now,
that
let me
is
ask
the
you
case.
this. Next year, if I draw New Mexico, are you going to come film me?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
You promise?
Well, who's going to film us? Because I'm getting another tag.
Okay.
We'll see.
Haven't even filled your first tag, but all right.
I might have
Let's
to.
get ahead of ourselves here.
No, at least try again next year.
Okay.
No, but I don't have a ton of expectations for elk hunting except just trying to getting in the game and experiencing it. And Curtis told me be prepared for longer shots. Apparently, in a lot of scenarios, there's a lot of brush in between you and the bull.
What's a long shot for the people listening?
I think 80 would be a long shot.
Mhm.
To me, that's a freaking
Yeah, it's a
long
poke.
shot.
I think that's a poke regardless where you're at.
Yeah, I would prefer under 50 realistically. I don't want to get into that mindset where it's like, it's a big animal, man. All your pins are going to be on.
Right.
As soon as I do that with a bag, I'm like, why'd that miss? That's what usually happens. So I don't want to get into that mindset. I don't want to take a freaking long range bomb at an elk that's not ethical. So we'll see.
Is there a point where close is too close, do you think, for this situation?
Definitely for deer. I don't know. It's kind of funny doing elk prep, talking about elk prep on a
When you've
podcast
never
when
been.
you're like, well, I feel like if you can get close to them and just
Well,
shoot them in the lung.
The reason I bring that up is because, exactly what you just said. Like, there is such thing as too close on a whitetail. Because
sure.
then you're kind of like handcuffed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not an elk expert, obviously. So, I don't know how they see things, how they perceive things. Obviously, they're like, I would think they'd stand there and kind of take an arrow and not duck it, obviously. But,
Just eat it.
yeah. Do you think close is too close? And obviously, we don't know if we're going to get in this situation, but it's just a talking point.
Yeah, I think they definitely could get too close. I've seen some of those videos where the elk is literally like almost touching the end of the guy's stabilizer, and he's like, ugh, and he just shoots and hammers him. And the elk's like, ah. But what was interesting, one thing I was talking about with Curtis, obviously, like if you were to ask a whitetail hunter, well, in most scenarios, what happens? And you would say, well, it's different in every scenario, right? Every shot angle is different, every approach, where they're coming from, every sit is different, right? I asked him that, and it was pretty much a similar answer, but for elk hunting. He's like, well, it depends, And the strategy this week, he said, is the guy we're going with is going to be doing a lot of the calling, and he's going to be sitting back behind us, trying to bugle to the bulls, keep them located for us. And he said it'll be a mix of, if the bull's running in, obviously we'll be staying pretty still, but if the bull is kind of staying in a singular spot, we'll have an opportunity to try to spot and stalk, try to work a little bit closer. So a mix bagged. I feel like it's just one of those situations, just similar to the first time that we went antelope hunting, where it's like you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And I'm excited to learn what I don't know.
So you talk about, the situational. Well, it depends. So I'm going to run you through a couple scenarios, right? And I just want to see. That way, either the listeners listening to this episode now and then listening to the hunt talk afterwards, you know what I mean?
Yep.
If I'm just trying to give them some ammo to kind of poke fun at you for.
I'm ready.
Okay. Are you going to take a frontal shot?
Yes.
When does that differ?
I asked Curtis that. I said, what do you do on a frontal shot? He goes, if he's just going to stand there and get shot, you might as well shoot him.
Perfect answer. Perfect answer.
I said, how far do you cut off frontals, Curtis? He goes, well, if he's just going to stand there and get shot. I was like, Curtis, you've been in the guiding game a little too long, my friend. You know how many clients he's probably set with, and a bull sitting there looking at him. He's like, come on,
just freaking shoot it.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into
the weeds on
that. I
that.
don't want to take a long range frontal shot, but I would.
Where does that cap though?
Probably like under 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's gonna be one at 52. I'm gonna be like, hey, press record. Watch this. I just don't know, man. I've never had an experience with an animal up close like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them, obviously.
That big either?
No, that big, that close. I mean, think about an animal when it runs up to you. You're looking kind of up at its back, or even keel with its back. On a whitetail, you're always looking down. Even a big-bodied, 220-pound live weight whitetail, you're never. So, I don't know the perspective. I'm sure it's going to culture shock me. I hope that I can overcome.
Hopefully.
I hope that I can overcome the moment.
Okay. Dadgummit.
Whip Pithabrick.
Uno momento. The whatchamacallit, Phil. There we go.
Old pro of go.
We're good now. Okay. So let me ask you this. Okay, so frontal shot. What if it's a little bit quartered away? And that's iffy on that big of an animal, right?
I mean, not for me. Yeah, put it mid body and let her eat. Especially with, I don't know, with a good single bevel and some weight up front, I would feel pretty confident. The only shot to me that doesn't sound extremely appealing is a hard quarter two, which a hard quarter two could turn into a frontal, right? In some instance, but I don't want to shoot an elk in the shoulder. I don't want to find out. I don't want to try that.
So, obviously, there's been like a hitch in the plans. Your arrow setup changed. You're shooting a lighter setup now, correct?
Yeah, a little bit lighter. Yeah.
Is that changing your thought with the shoulders and stuff like that, or is it because this isn't really something to test stuff with?
No, you don't. I don't want to test it on a freaking elk.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. On a whitetail,
because that is something to consider on the quarter two shots, right? Because it's like, okay, you're either going to be damned or you're not, and if you ain't got the right arrow, so I'm not trying to worry you or anything, but that's just something to think about.
I think on the quartering two shots, it's not a shot I freaking love with a whitetail either. But
dude, whitetail, I'd send it
up like really close.
Right.
I would, but like a 40-yard quartering two shot on an animal as big as an elk, it's like I don't know if that's the time to push that agenda, especially because he'll probably give you a better shot than that. I would rather take a frontal than a quartering to like that. I don't know enough about an elk on the anatomy side of like, and you don't have any experience, right? On whitetails, you shoot one and you're like, okay, I can do that because I've done it before.
And I'm just talking out of my butt right now, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Curtis, we're in Curtis.
Hey, baby.
To be honest, I don't know what I don't know on the quartering stuff. I would love a quartering away. I would love a good broadside, and then anything close on a frontal would be awesome. I'm really going to rely on the experience of hopefully the guide to be like, that's great, I'd shoot there or not. But, some of that, I argue a lot of it is still your decision, right?
I mean, what if he's, 40 yards back calling? He ain't going to be in your ear.
No, I'm going to have to just make a decision. I hope that all my whitetail experience, gosh dang.
Dad burn it.
Our dirty Chinese freaking GoPro handle is not working too well tonight, boys. But yeah, I mean, I don't know on that. I would prefer not a quartering shot. I would. That's what I would probably say on that one. not a quartering to.
Yeah.
That would suck. It would. I'm telling you too. What would be worse than watching one run into your life is to freaking get 6 inches of penetration in an elk shoulder and be like, nice, cool. That is not what I
Watch me
want.
fall on this. You think I'll get more than 6 inches?
Yeah. Watch me hit a ridge just blee wee off the edge. Yeah. I'm excited for the interaction of the calling. I think that's something that really excites me, to hear a bull return. And then what my hope out of this is that I get enough of a gist on what to look for, what habitat they're living in, how they respond to calling. It's going to be hard to get all the experience in 5 days, but just getting a general gist.
You can have experience, though.
A general gist of what's going on to then take to, some more maybe over-the-counter or low-point units in other western states. That's my goal.
That would save the wallet a bit. At least my wallet.
Yeah.
You biting this chunk for me to get this experience, I appreciate it, man.
You're welcome. Which I talked to my buddy Landon today, and he was like, you really have to put in perspective the quality of the hunt that you're going on. You're going on a New Mexico elk hunt on a good piece of public land where there's good trophy class bulls and probably a lot of bugling. So you have to juxtapose that with, it'd be like hunting deer on my unpressured lease and then going to public land in eastern Oklahoma and seeing one deer in a week and being like, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
You just have to put it similar to what we were talking about with Nebraska. You got to put it all into perspective. So that is my understanding of this elk hunt. I'm excited about it.
So I know we touched on it a few podcasts ago when we were kind of giving the rundown of our next 2 weeks, and here we are on week 2 of that. Or next 3 weeks, and here we are on week 2. Has your after experiencing Nebraska, out of state, maybe that bar is was set a little bit higher than you thought, but you're as soon as you get there, you get a good reality check blown in your face, and it's like, okay, I will settle for this. Has your expectations for either your elk or anything like that, like size-wise, change for you, or is it just still the same?
I think greed can be your enemy in hunting a lot, and I think I would not, as of today, I would not shoot a raghorn. I would prefer to shoot something bigger than a raghorn, but my expectations are not very much higher than that, which to a guide is probably like,
that's
cool.
Music to their ears.
Yeah, awesome. So that's just it for me. I don't know what I don't know. I don't have any tangible experience elk hunting, so my expectations aren't super high on the class of animal, and there's always room to go up. Like if I had a really a nice bull sitting at 50 and a monster sitting at 120, am I gonna wait? I don't know. It's so
is it early in the trip?
Yeah, it's so situational dependent, and I hate to say it this way, but in a lot of times, especially on like out-of-state trips, your standards are like they're stepping down like an AT&T bar every day. Not that like you get to the end and you're going to shoot a spike,
right?
But
maybe.
But they are stepping down every day, and I think you got to keep that in perspective. So,
for sure. But kind of going back to the point you made earlier about like trying to, figuring out what you don't know, dude. It is going to be pretty refreshing being like, okay, in this situation, whether that be calling them and then them calling back and then like figuring out what you need to do and why you need to do that thing in order to try to get closer to that elk. It's like that is going to be really cool to learn.
Right. Well, you learn it in the whitetail, like hunting whitetail your whole life. You learn when can I move, when can't I move, when do I call, when do I not call, what's the body language telling me. And gosh dang, this thing's about to die anyways. So there is some of that. I just want I don't want to go play the Super Bowl of elk hunting apart from Arizona and not get a bull because I wasn't willing to not humble myself, but willing to go with someone else, because I am like I aspire to go hunt a bunch of outfitted hunts? Not really.
Well,
but
everybody wants to be that, be thought of as like, oh, that public land warrior in any situation, he can get it done, he can come out on top. But
yeah,
this is for fun, man.
Hunting's for fun.
That's really what it is. Like none of us anymore that we personally know need to like actually hunt for our food, right?
No,
we
it's
live
for enjoyment
in
and food.
Oklahoma. and Texas, and it's like you have an HEB 5 minutes from your house that makes great tacos for like $1.50,
Fantastic
dude.
breakfast tacos.
And you can easily eat that. Like me, I can run to Mickey D's, might get food poisoning, but like, hey, like it's there. I'm not going to starve to death, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just for fun.
And you can't, you pick your battles. Would I ever go on a guided whitetail hunt? No, I wouldn't.
That's very true.
I would never go on a guided whitetail hunt. But would I go on a guided sheep hunt? Yeah. Would I go on a semi-guided mule deer hunt? Maybe. It depends if it was cheap. Anyone listening to this podcast that said they wouldn't go on a $500 guided mule deer hunt is lying. That hasn't killed one yet. But
yeah, that is true. And also, it's like you're not going to go on five guided elk hunts in a row. Hell,
No.
you might not even go on 2.
No, no. Yes.
With that, it's like, okay, like sooner or later there is growth. And right now, we're like the onset hunters into elk hunting. This is our newbie stage, right?
Oh yeah.
And so it's just like one of those things. Like, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. So you can't really hold it, that tie of a noose around our neck right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you work all the time to freaking have fun. So it's like this is a different type of hunting that's fun to me, and it's something I really want to try. And it'd be really cool to try it in a place where they freaking live. Like, this is the equivalent of me drawing an Iowa tag and having great access.
So let's say someone doesn't have the funds or doesn't want to spend the funds to go on a guided elk hunt. Do you think, do you think someone could draw a good unit like this and do it without a guide?
In New Mexico?
Yeah, and still be successful?
I think so.
You think so?
I think so, probably. I mean, it with the right mental fortitude, probably.
That's a
but
thing.
I think so, because people have done it. People are getting it done in over-the-counter units in Colorado with no experience every single year, and I know people that have done it on, two buddies killing one first year in over-the-counter in Colorado. So, it's out there. I'm in a situation now where I live so far away from everything that it's very hard for me to go out and get to scout. So I'm either kind of deciding between scouting or hunting. Like, if I lived a lot closer to Colorado, I would really enjoy going out and scouting in the summers and looking at units and, all that sort of stuff, maybe in some fly fishing. And I hope to do that, more of that in the future. But I'm not trying to pull too deep in my well of excuses for why I'm going on an outfitted hunt. Why am I going on one? Because I want to, and it's fun.
Yeah. This shouldn't be a excuse podcast.
I want to, and it's fun.
Yeah.
And I hope
if you don't like it, don't listen to this one. Just watch the next one, please.
Yeah, exactly. Don't just give us a chance. Go back and listen to the first hour of this podcast. We're talking about hunting public land mule deer.
Yes.
and
yes.
Pronghorn. But no, I mean, I'm excited, man. We were talking about the big sky in Nebraska. I'm excited to be in rural New Mexico, hearing bugle and bulls, and just getting in the game, man. Just getting in the game is going to be really fun, especially with a stick and string. If I stick a freaking bull with a bow, I'm going to be freaking over the moon.
It'd be pretty good practice for whitetail, huh?
No, it wouldn't. It absolutely would not be good practice for whitetail, because I'd be like, why are these whitetails so small?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. So that's what we're up to. I knew September was gonna fly, and it is.
Dude, it has.
It's
stupid.
It's flying already. We just started like a week ago, and my September is gonna be. Your September is really crazy, and we're gonna blink, and it's gonna be October 1st. I think I'm gonna take it a little chiller in the early part of October with the deer hunting stuff, and hopefully pick right back up in mid-October when it starts hammering a little more.
Yeah. I think you're gonna need to be able to keep a wife. Oh,
keep a wife.
Should I don't know. You can either edit this or cut this, but I want to say it like it's going on the air.
Say it like it's going on the air.
We got kind of somewhat a new addition to the AJ crew.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Should have said this at the beginning, but I just thought of it.
Yeah. Me and Lauren are having a baby.
Woo!
Go me.
Who's the dad?
Yeah, we haven't. Well, I guess I assumed everybody saw that on social media, but a lot of people probably follow the hunting page and don't follow me personally, and I don't ever post on my personal page. So Lauren did kind of a co-post, but yeah, Lauren and I are having a baby in late February, fantastic timing by me. Every guy that I know that hunts has been like, "You nailed that, dude."
Yeah,
Great work."
right.
And I was like, it wasn't that planned out.
No
like
one cares
that.
about turkey season. I mean, that's perfect.
I certainly don't that much. But yeah, we're having a baby boy coming late February. So
Good.
we're in this point in hunting season where we're trying to sprint because it's fixing to slow way down as we get closer to the baby coming. But now we're excited. We're over the moon. We got a little guy on the way.
Have y'all picked out a name yet?
No.
No.
Man,
Besides Bean.
Bean.
Bean. That's what Lauren called him. Bean.
Did she really?
Little Bean.
He is a little bean. Oh, did
Yeah.
she say that in the video or something?
I don't know. I think it's on like one of the captions or something.
Oh, okay. No, we don't have a name picked out. Lauren was. She said we should narrow it down to 2 names, and then when we see him, we'll just decide then. And I was like, I think we need to have a name before you.
I would think.
She's
so.
like, well, I want to look at him and decide. I was like, he's gonna look like a little alien.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like
be a pin-headed sucker.
R2D2. So I don't. We'll pick out a name, but it's gonna be a little later on, which we got plenty of time. We still have
5 months.
Yeah, 5 months. So yeah, got a little guy on the way, which is, I know my life is gonna change forever, and it's been fun. It's been fun doing the podcast, and as of February,
I'm retiring.
No, it'll just be different. But I'm ready for that season. I'm ready to have There was a time in my life, probably not that long ago, where I literally considered wanting to continue to push out kids because of my ability, like my wanting to hunt and travel. And I've just realized that it's like, there's not a bull big enough, there's not a buck big enough, there's not a pile of racks big enough to put above that right now. Because, dude, it really put into perspective last year when I shot 4 bucks, and I was like, okay, cool.
Now what?
Yeah, I was like, awesome. You know, you always want to try it for yourself. You're like, let me shoot 5, and then I'll decide if I want. And I just realized, like, it's just another buck.
Yeah.
You know, it's just another deer. Like, at the end of the day, it's not something
Here's
you put
the
over a
thing.
family.
You can always do both.
Absolutely.
You can always do both.
They're not exclusive. Yeah, you can't. So
I mean, obviously, if you start to become a POS where you're like, kid's fine,
right.
I'll take you to the side and give you a stern talking
Wiggle
to,
that
mister.
finger. Well, I mean, I want to be a good dad. I want to be there, and but I also want to hunt. And I don't
Sometimes you just got to go get the milk. You know what I mean?
and never come. I'm just kidding. No, it's an exciting time. It's going to be very, very different than anything I've ever experienced, and similar to what we were talking about elk hunting. I don't know what I don't know. But I know that I have a good partner. I know that I picked the right lady, and Lauren's definitely going to hold it down while I try to continue.
Did you pick her? Let's be honest.
I think that was fate. You were there.
I think you tricked her.
Tricked her. I was a quarterback at Oklahoma State.
You were a punter. I was the kicker. Let's get it right.
Oh, was that right?
That's what it was.
That's funny.
We're not tall enough to be an important position. Are you kidding me?
I don't know. I looked like a string bean back then.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
Wish I still could. The LBs are
Get up that hill, no problem. But
yeah.
No, that's exciting stuff, man. We're all very proud for you, and we're all praying for obviously a healthy baby and all that good stuff. So no, it'll be an exciting time. So
it is. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. We're excited. I mean, I don't want to call this season my last hurrah because that's not my last hurrah, but it might be my last hurrah at this pace. Right, at the pace that I'm going right now, and that's
you
okay.
say that we've only did Nebraska like for I guess you did antelope too.
Yeah.
A week.
A lot of it is the travel aspect of it.
That's true, but if you're in Oklahoma this time next year, that travel aspect's literally going to be cut in half.
That'd be nice.
It would. It'd be
nice.
because it was 9 hours to northeast Oklahoma, and then there was another 9 hours to where we were in Nebraska.
Dude, that's what sucks about
50%.
Where I'm driving right now. I get to you guys, I'm like, nice, only halfway there.
Yeah, you get to me, I'm like, all right, time to start.
Yeah, it sucks. But yeah, man, it's exciting. It's an exciting time.
Absolutely.
September is an exciting time. We have abundantly more than we deserve, and we've been continually blessed with like the hunts being able to go on, what's been happening in life. It's been a good season, really. It's been a really tough year in a lot of ways, but it's been a really good season, and I'm hoping to freaking kick it off by spilling some blood.
Praise God.
Praise God. That reminded me of that what is it? It's like raise hell and praise Dale or whatever it is. Yeah. I feel like we're rambling. But anyways, our GoPro's fixing to die, so we're gonna have to cut this one. I think we've got close to 2 hours in this podcast. But I'm hoping the next time we do a podcast, we are live from elk camp holding more bone than I've ever seen before on a land mammal.
If you were to guess, real quick.
Yeah.
If you were to just be like, just throw out a number just for a random gamble or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think inch-wise you're going to be holding?
I think we're shooting
I'll give you a 15-inch spread.
I think we're shooting a 260.
A 260?
That's my goal.
Okay.
That's a Pope.
I'm going to say 275.
You heard it.
275.
That's the goal. We'll see. We might go up there and the guy's like, dude, that's a dink. But it's all about perspective. It's all about it. So, yeah, we appreciate you guys watching. We know we've been doing a lot of these. We're starting to do a lot more of these like on the road podcasts from the field, and they can be kind of different and chaotic. They're not our normal, pointing a 4K camera at your face with a fantastic
It's a lot
mic.
more fun.
Yeah, it is. It's fun to be together and do it too. So we're doing a lot more of these as hunting season progresses. We'll see as we go to deer camp and stuff. More people pop in. We're going to be filming a ton. I hope people see that we're trying to put the effort in on the filming side this year. Really trying to up our production.
I think it's paid off so far.
So far, we've got some great footage, and we are
Actually, be in that other lane. That sucks.
We are hoping to continue the train. So we'll quit rambling. If you guys have been enjoying the podcast, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please leave us a rating and review. On Spotify, I think it's just a rating. Apple, leave us a rating and review because it helps us reach more people, and we appreciate you guys listening every single week. I'm sure when we get home, we'll get back to our live episodes and other stuff, maybe a guest here and there. But this is going to be it for the next month or two. Is probably a lot of these run and gun hunt talk style podcasts.
Yeah,
which we're excited.
Also, feel free to shoot us a message on any type of DM, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, because we do check them. There has been a couple that got into the spam folder.
Oh, yeah.
And we apologize about that. It's not intentional if we don't get back to you. But, yeah, we want to see your all's kills, harvest, and
trail cam photos.
If you all want to talk whitetail, trust me, we do podcasts and just to talk about hunting. So anytime we can, like, sit on the couch or lay in bed or something and talk to someone else about hunting, it's like, oh, dude, 2 thumbs up. Let's do it.
My Twitter fingers work.
Exactly.
That's funny you say that. I had a guy on Facebook that messaged me personally a year ago. He said, what do you think about this property? I just got permission to hunt it, and I went to my spam box, and I saw it, and I was like, it made my heart sink. And I messaged him, and I was like, hey, dude, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
And he was like, no worries. And I was like, did you end up hunting that property? He was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm so sorry.
It happens. I don't know why,
it's so silly.
It's usually the name, like on Instagram at least, it's usually the names that have like 2 letters or something, where it's like KT or something like that. It's like, okay, I could see how this could get flagged as spam.
Yeah.
But like I said, guys, it's not intentional. We love, even if it's trail cam photos, like, what do you think this scores? We get some of those.
That's fun, too.
And we're not like, oh, that's 130, whatever. We're like, shooter or not shooter. That's just what we do.
And if you're sending us photos, we usually go, I'd shoot.
Yeah.
So you might not get the best response, but we try to respond to all this stuff. We really appreciate you guys watching and listening. I mean, it's fun to do these every week. It's fun to see you guys and enjoy them. We love interacting with you guys. So
also, this is just, we're already rambling too much, so you might as well add it on. Register to vote, guys. Seriously. Like, you need to register to vote. Which side you vote. Hopefully, if you listen to this, you vote for the good guys. But yeah, I mean, it is very important this election. I'm going to repeat, this is very important this election to vote, because there's a lot of shady stuff going down, and it is very uneasy, because I get caught in that rabbit hole about every single night when I go to sleep. I'll scroll through some stuff and I'll see some stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is horrible. So yeah, register to vote. Obviously, vote for Donald Trump. I don't know what kind of influence we got, but we're using it. That's all I'm saying.
There's one guy that's like, I'm in.
Yeah, hey, that's fine.
I don't like to characterize people as like good versus evil, but there's a lot of darkness.
There's smart versus dumb.
Yeah. Which side are we?
I mean,
no, there's a lot of wickedness in the world. It's kind of changed my opinion a ton just thinking about, the world that your child is coming into. And man, we could all really afford to go out and enjoy more of the great outdoors if you could afford to live a little more. And living in Texas and seeing all this stuff with the border, the immigration, the crime.
What's going on in Colorado right now? I've been hearing a lot of that, but I haven't did any digging into it.
I think there's like a Venezuelan gang that's taking over like an apartment complex or something.
Nice.
So, anywho.
Due to the border, probably, I assume.
I have no idea. Come back next week for political commentary. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, seriously, you guys should get out and vote.
It's important.
I think this is probably one of the most important elections that we're ever going to see
in our lifetimes, for sure.
It is for sure the most important one. Lauren and I actually went and saw Reagan last night, the movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's the documentary about Ronald Reagan.
Pretty good.
It has a lot of parallels with Trump. So a lot of people hated him. He was like directly fighting against the Communist Party and kind of stuck it to him with the Cold War. So
history is kind of repeating. Reagan was a movie actor. Donald Trump, he was on WWE. You know what I mean?
He was on The Apprentice, too.
Apprentice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So both somewhat actors. I mean, I think Donald or Reagan.
The biggest actor.
Yeah, he
the hugest.
He acted with like a monkey or something, I think.
He wasn't a super successful actor.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know either. But
I don't know. This is our politicking, guys.
Anywho, as you can see, probably go watch the Ben Shapiro show or something else.
Yeah, or that comment section. What's her name?
Brett Cooper.
Yeah.
She's smart.
Yes.
Yep, she's a stud. But anyways, we appreciate you guys. We will next podcast you guys will see will be coming from elk camp. So keep us in your thoughts, keep us in your prayers, and
Jesus loves you.
Jesus loves you. Keep praying that a bull goes down. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you. Bye.
Bye.